Hello and welcome to Inside Poland, our monthly edition of Talking Europe, entirely devoted to the Polish presidency of the EU. Donald Tusk will be the first Polish Prime Minister since the fall of communism in '89 to be returned in office for a second consecutive term. Last Sunday, his pro-European civic platform trounced its main rival, the conservative nationalist Law and Justice Party of Jarosław Kaczyński. Now, Mr. Kaczyński is, of course, a brother of former President Lech Kaczyński, who died in a plane crash in April last year. The news of Tusk's victory came as a relief for Poland's European partners, who feared the election would disrupt the Polish presidency of the EU. Now, in this program, we'll, of course, analyze the results of the Polish vote. We'll also meet our cultural guest, a pianist and composer. Zygmunt Kaudza is a pioneer of unistic music, a minimalist style of music that became very popular in the 1960s. But let's start here and let me introduce you to my two guests, starting to my right with you, Róża von Thun. Hello, nice to have you on our set. Now, you are a Polish MEP and you belong to the European People's Party. You also belong at home to the civic platform of Mr. Tusk, so you'll tell us more about these good results for your party. Also on this set, Bogusław Liberacki. Hello, you are a Polish MEP from the Progressive Alliance of Socialists and Democrats. Now, before we talk, just a few figures. 40% for the civic platform of Mr. Tusk, 30% for the Law and Justice Party of Jarosław Kaczyński, 10% for a new party, the Palikot movement. We'll talk about this because this really created a surprise, and then 8% for the Peasant Party and only 8% for the Democratic Left Alliance. This is very low. You tell us, of course, also why you think the left has almost disappeared from the political landscape in Poland. Mrs. von Thun, first, the big difference between Mr. Kaczyński and Mr. Tusk is their view of Europe. Mr. Tusk is a pro-European integrationist, as some would call him, while Mr. Kaczyński led a very Eurosceptic campaign. Is this a vote from Poland for Europe?
Yes, it's not only for Europe, it's also for the, it's a vote for the attitude, maybe I could even say, towards the other human being. Tusk and this party has a very positive attitude towards others, and be it others in the European Union, of course towards the European Union, but for the European Union it's a little bit more special because Tusk very often speaks about the responsibility for Europe, even for those who are in Eurozone, and we are not yet in the Eurozone, but for the common responsibility for the whole European family, which I was even a little bit afraid if the Poles would accept it so easily. But also a very, how to say, positive or balanced or reasonable attitude towards other neighbors and other countries in the world. He doesn't speak this sharp language against Russia as Kaczyński does. Kaczyński even used those anti-German phobias during the electoral campaign and only lost because of this.
And it's important to remind our viewers that Poland is the largest former communist state in the EU, so it works as an engine for the region. Mr. Liberacki, 8% for the left in Poland is very low. This is the party of former President Aleksander Kwaśniewski. How do you explain this?
First, it's a really great surprise, because our political scene is not typical for Europe, because we have two right-oriented parties. One is very much right-oriented, Tusk is right and partly center-oriented, and just nobody strong on the left side. It's very curious. I may say to some extent it's very Polish for today. Why? Let me recall that 14 years ago we won election with a result of 43% of support. And during our government, we lost reputation. Not everything was justified, but it's not a matter of justification, it's a matter how people perceive you, what do they think about you. And now, we are growing, we had even 6-7 months ago about 20% of support. And what happened? First, it was kind of a persistent civic platform propaganda. Poland is the only green island in the European Union. Crisis will not come to Poland as long as civic platform and peasant party they are working together. If you entrust your position to civic platform, you are granted. Sleep quietly, hot water will be running from at your bathroom and at your kitchen. And 2 weeks ago, Civic Platform and Kaczynski party, they were almost equal, 2 percentage points difference. And it happened about a week before election that Kaczynski said something wrong about Angela Merkel, saying that she came to power using not only democratic methods, everybody was...
He referred to the Stasi, the former secret police.
And then it was a very good opportunity for Civic Platform saying, take a look, this is peace, law and justice. They are ready to make a war. They are ready to destroy European Union. Only Civic Platform and everybody who is clever, who has in mind the welfare of Poland should support Civic Platform. Don't vote on smaller parties because you will lose your votes. And the second phenomena was so-called Palikot.
But let's have a look at Mr. Palikot. 10%, he's a former member of your party, Civic Platform. He's a bit of a maverick, a businessman himself, in favour of abortion, gay rights. He doesn't want the church to play an important role in society. Wasn't it a mistake for your party, a liberal party, to ignore these issues?
It's not that those issues are ignored, and I also wouldn't support this extremely anti-ecclesiastic tones in the speeches of Palikot, because I find a little bit too much lack of respect. I would respect it more, although, of course, I am also for the separation between the church and the state. So we shall see how it will continue, I would say. He is on the verge of populism. He needed this also in order to enter the parliament. And this is a product that sells very easily when you attack the church.
He found a niche.
He found a niche that nobody articulated so clearly until now. And those solutions, black and white and good or evil, etc., it's not like this in life. And I will briefly come back to what my colleague said. This is exactly what is characteristic for Tusk is not that he says to people, you will sleep quietly and hot water will run from your tub if you vote for Platforma. He says we have to stick together because the times are difficult and they will be more difficult. We are successful because we stick together and because Platforma has this reasonable sort of quiet way of running the country. So this language of Palikot is completely different from this realistic language of Tusk, I would say, and some people need it, evidently. But populism is popular.
Before we continue our discussion, well, Tusk is likely to form an alliance with its previous partner, the PSL, as the Peasants' Party, in a country where 17% of voters are farmers. The future of Poland's farming sector was, of course, a central theme during the campaign, as our reporter found out.
At 30 hectares, Ewa and Jacek Sigatowicz's pig farm is typical for central Poland. They wanted to expand, but had to shelve that plan. European Union subsidies haven't compensated for the increased pressure of the free market, Ewa says.
When we joined the European Union, the prices of all our agricultural inputs, I mean fertilizers, pesticides, fungicides, went up by 300%.
Changes to the EU's agricultural subsidies policy will be crucial to the survival of farms like the Sigatowicz's. So as Jacek sets off to sow the field, Ewa drives to the nearby village of Spawa, where Agriculture Minister Marek SAWICKI is speaking at a harvest festival on this very subject. SAWICKI's PSL party, known as the Peasants' Party, draws most of its support from rural areas. It maintained its score in the October the 9th general election and looks set to continue as a member of the governing coalition. 17% of Polish voters are farmers, and they want Warsaw to win change from Brussels.
The common agricultural policy in its current form is a policy that hinders the development of European agriculture.
Since 2004, EU subsidies have boosted Polish farmers' incomes by an average of 24%. Initially, that delivered a wave of Euro enthusiasm. But SAWICKI says that's waned in recent years.
Our farmers do not want to spend another 7 years working under unfair competition conditions. If a French farmer today gets more than 300 euros per hectare, and the poll gets around 215, it's obvious that that distorts competition.
Around the stands at the Spawa Harvest Festival, it was easy to find echoes of SAWICKI's words.
We'd be a lot better off as farmers if we were getting the subsidies as they get in France and Germany.
But others, more specialised producers in particular, had success stories to tell. These cheesemakers from the southern mountains benefited from the EU's so-called second pillar rural development funds as well as direct subsidies.
Since joining the EU, things are much better. We're satisfied. As mountain people, we've benefited a lot from the European Union.
Poland wants more such satisfied customers. So in the next round of negotiations on the common agricultural policy, Warsaw is gearing up for a tough fight for more second pillar payments and more equal direct subsidies.
Mr. Liberacki, as we saw in our report, Poland has a vibrant farming sector, and yet farmers are worried of what a reform of the common agricultural policy would mean for their sector. Do you understand their worries, as we saw in this report?
It was also our, maybe, one of the reasons for our bad performance during the election, that we tried to be very open, saying, you, Polish farmers, you are getting all together, or you are promised to get, you have a chance to get 30 billion euros during years 2007-2013, plus 2 years if the second pillar needs additional time for investing money. And this is why these parties, especially Law and Justice, who said more subsidies, more direct subsidies, partly also EPSL, Peasant Party, were gaining instead of us.
Well, thank you very much, Róża von Thun and Bogusław Liberacki, for taking part in this edition of Inside Poland. It's now time for us to travel to Warsaw to meet our culture guest, Zygmunt Krause. He's a pianist and composer. He's a pioneer of unistic music. That's a minimalist style of music which became very popular in the 1960s. Now, Mr. Krause is also a big fan of Frédéric Chopin. Zygmunt Krause. Dzień dobry. Thank you for having us here in your studio in Warsaw. Tell us first, you're famous as a composer of unistic music. What is it exactly?
The story is very, for me, very touching, because I went once to the Museum of Modern Art in Łódź, and I saw a picture of Polish painter Władysław Strzemiński, who was the famous constructivist. And I had a kind of illumination. I thought, that's it. And I want to translate what I have seen to my music. And that was the beginning of thinking of me as a composer. So I can say that my greatest teacher for composition was a painter. Art avoid the contrasts, which is extremely homogeneous, which does not attack the people, the audience, but who ask the people to come to the art, to the music or to the paintings. So my music in 60s, 70s were very much connected to this idea of unistic art, of homogeneous form. And nowadays it's still kind of present, but I'm mostly involved in opera.
More than 200 years after his birth, Frédéric Chopin remains Poland's most celebrated composer. Is he still a source of inspiration for you?
Because I'm a pianist and composer, I can say that the most time I spent with a composer was a Chopin, practicing his works every day hours and hours. So naturally his music came into my body and it is present. Even I don't think about it, I even don't know about it, but he is present. And I think it's a case of many Polish musicians. Thanks to this anniversary, I composed a piece which is devoted to his name. The piece is called Voyage de Chopin, based on the texts of his letters which he wrote to his parents for choir and folk instruments which are here, like hurdy-gurdy, folk violins, bagpipes, and so on.
Why is it that Chopin has come to embody the Polish nation?
Beginning of 19th century, when he lived, was the very painful period of the Polish history. The time when the people emigrated for political reasons or economical reasons. And he did also. He also emigrated from Poland to Paris. And he, I think, represents not only an artist, but also a Pole, kind of typical. Someone who is longing to his country, who is isolated of his country, who is kind of nostalgic. So he represents the character, very much the character of Poles.
Zygmunt Krause, thank you very much. Well, thank you for watching this edition of Inside Poland. We'll return next month. Of course, we'll continue our journey through Poland, so please stay with us on France 24.